I would put that to Mother.
Well, I think so. Although Dad, you know, in the end, you know, he died at the conference.
Yes.
He was reading the Bible in the upper room.
Oh.
Because when I came from India and I visited him in Watra's hospital,
Wow.
I had a prayer with him.
Mm.
And he said to me, "Oh, stop, I'm not a good man."
Well, of course, Father had had the heart trouble for a couple of years, hadn't he?
He had, yeah.
Oh, he was about 7 years.
Yeah,
So his first heart attack. And
yeah.
Because I know that because he had to quit curling.
Mother, of course, was guarding him and looking after him.
Yeah.
He insisted on going to the annual conference of the United Church down in Regina, and he didn't turn up on the second morning, as I understood the story.
Yeah.
You probably know it better than I do,
Yeah.
Steve. Well, it was Pete that told me about it.
Yeah.
And so they went over to his hotel room, and there he was, laying comfortable in his bed with his Bible open on his chest, and the light still on. He apparently had laid down at night and was going to read his evening devotions, and just quietly died.
He died peacefully.
So tell us a bit about your call to ordination. Who felt the call first?
Well, I guess David.
I was checking on some of my records last night, and I was reading Vera's account of things, and Vera admitted that at a very early age she wanted to be a minister's wife. She had a great admiration for her brother-in-law, Eric Whiting, who had married the older sister Laura, and Laura was, well, she was Laura, but anyway, Vera greatly admired Eric Whiting, and she'd made up her mind when she was only in her early teens that she was going to be a minister's wife. And so it turned out that she couldn't find somebody who was already a minister, so she married me and turned me into a minister.
She decided she'd marry somebody named David, wasn't it?
That was the other story. That was the other story. When she was only a teenager, we were on a nice sunny July evening. We were playing ball, as we often did. Neil was the pitcher. He was a left-handed pitcher, and I was the catcher. And then the younger brothers, they had to take turns being the batters.
Trying to bat, yeah.
Anyway, we was back and forth between the 2 yards, and we were playing in our yard when these two little damsels, Ines and Vera Morgan, came walking down the road coming across. So that was my first acquaintance with Vera Morgan. And the Morgan sisters were, none of them wanted to be spinsters. They were all going to be, they were going to have husbands and children. Vera was the youngest of the sisters. And so on one occasion, I was strolling, walking back and forth in the evening, and got back. They had come over. Well, the older sister, Lillian, had quite an eye for Albert, but we asked her in later years, why did she end up with Bob rather than Albert? Instead, Albert was too slow. Albert should have stepped up to the plate.
Yeah. What about you, Fred? When did you sense a call to ministry and mission?
Well, I lived with Dave and Vera when I was in agriculture, and they would have devotions every night. That was kind of new to me. And then after I graduated, I was still living there, and I went to this crusade in the old Capitol Theater. At the very end, this fella, whoever it was, I can't remember his name, he made the altar call. I went down the aisle, and that's when I first really felt I was a Christian.
Wonderful.
And then actually, I was working at St. The economics division, and living in St. Andrews, you know, they had residents there. And Jim Clark had this prayer group after supper. And so a few of us would go to this prayer group. I never thought of being a minister. I thought, oh, I could never be a minister. Anyway, it was during this prayer group that I felt the call to the ministry. Yeah.
Interesting. We see right here, Granddad Dave's grandson, who's just graduated from Regent, training to be a minister. So it's in the family. Now I want to ask Phil. Phil, can you hear me?
Yes.
You're one of 3 brothers who became ordained ministers. That doesn't happen very often. What is your theory? How did this happen? That 3 brothers all became ordained ministers, and your sister became a deacon. Yes.
In our family, the church was just a natural part of our lives to start with, and I was greatly impressed when my brother Dave went into theology and became a candidate. But we had a minister by the name of Fred
Gardner?
Yep, Fred Gardner, and he a very fine man, and he talked to me about it, and I got thinking and thought, well, maybe that would be the way I should go. And then on his last Sunday there, he seemed to speak directly to me, and I thought, as I sat on the pew, that, yeah, I guess I'll do it, and I did. And it followed not a very easy road, but after all these years, I'm still glad that I said yes and did the best I could.
Yeah, you had a story you wanted to tell.
Well, Dave mentioned Shorty Williams. He was a minister in Zelma. He was a very short man.
You're saying he was an inspiration to you? Or?
Well, not really.
Fred has a story about one of Shorty Williams' sermons. He was, well, let me put it this way, he was a CCFer and a socialist.
That was an extra.
Goodness.
Anyway, he was preaching one day and he was emphasizing a point and his teeth flew out. Grabbed them in his hand and put them back in again. But I remember that Sunday when he collapsed.
Yes, he was a very impatient man, and he was determined to put up the hymn numbers. He stomped up there, a short man reaching up, and of course that's the worst thing you can do with the heart trouble.
With his heart, yeah.
Down, he just turned away from the hymn board and fell right down the steps. Went out cold right down the steps.
Wow.
Yeah. Remember they got him into he had this new car.
Yes, he had a new Ford car.
Oh.
They got him in the car, and Foster and Dad were going to drive him back to Young. And Dad was hoping to get under the wheel.
Father wasn't quite quick enough.